My daughter-in-law posted a photo of me hauling my stuff out of the main house and called me an old freeloader in front of 1,168 people. My son hit like. The whole family laughed. I didn't argue back. I just liked every single comment. And then I waited exactly 9 days until they figured out for themselves who had really been living off whom. Here's Hannahlore's story, told in 10 chapters. I'm 67 years old, and this morning my face became the town's latest punchline on Facebook. My daughter-in-law Lauren snapped a picture of me lugging a heavy box from the main house out to the little guest cottage in the backyard. She slapped big, bold letters across it. The old freeloader is finally gone, no more cooking for her. Over 1,000 likes in just 3 hours. Her mom and sister piled on with laughing emojis talking about how freeing it was to finally ditch the dead weight. I sat on my bed in the smaller place, staring at my tablet. My son Ryan had liked the post too. It didn't sting the way they probably hoped. Instead, a cold, sharp clarity washed over me. Ever since my husband passed 3 years ago, they'd moved into my house like it was theirs alone. I'd let them. I paid the bills, did the shopping, and gave Lauren the space to chase her career. They mistook my quiet for weakness and my generosity for something they were owed. The old burden's out, someone commented. I didn't cry. I didn't fire off one angry reply. I just took screenshots of every comment. I even clicked like on Lauren's post. That probably threw them off, but I didn't have time for their confusion. I had a plan. In exactly 9 days, Ryan would realize the life he thought he'd built on his own had been resting on my shoulders the whole time. I stood up, locked the door to my little cottage, and set the key ring on the kitchen table. Time to cut the invisible strings holding that house together. They thought they'd tossed me aside. Really, I just stopped being the foundation keeping everything from collapsing. My first day of freedom had started, and the countdown to their wake-up call was already ticking softly in the background. 9 days. That's all it would take for them to get the picture. Day 2 started with a quiet I hadn't savored in years. While I brewed coffee in my tiny kitchen, I heard distant banging from the main house. Ryan and Lauren were used to the breakfast table magically appearing fully set. They had no clue I'd been up at 6 every morning, grabbing fresh rolls and programming the coffee maker. Today, their kitchen stayed stone cold. I sat at my desk and opened my online banking. It was time to straighten out the finances. The house was mine, but I'd let Ryan and Lauren live upstairs rent-free as long as he handled maintenance. In reality, I'd been quietly transferring a monthly allowance straight to his account, enough to cover electricity, water, gas, and heat around $450 or so. He thought he was just a thrifty guy. Nope. He'd been cashing my silent checks. I logged in and canceled the automatic transfer. From now on, those bills would hit his paycheck. Next, I canceled the weekly organic delivery service I'd been funding on my card. Lauren loved bragging on Instagram about her healthy meals, but never mentioned who actually paid for them. I glanced out the window and watched Lauren rushing to her car, probably hunting for her keys. I used to hang them neatly on the hook. Today, they were lost in her mess. I took a sip of coffee and felt a deep, quiet satisfaction. This wasn't mean. I was just resetting things to how they really were. If she called me a freeloader, she could damn well manage without my resources. I called the gardener and told him I wouldn't be covering the main house anymore. If Ryan wanted a nice lawn, he'd have to mow it or pay someone himself. The cracks were already showing, and they hadn't even noticed yet. On day 3, I got the first text from Ryan. Mom, do you have the login for the insurance account Lauren needs to file a claim on the car? I read it while curled up in my armchair with a book. I didn't reply. Before I'd have jumped up, dug out the folder, found the number, and called for them. Today, my phone stayed silent on the table. I knew what happened. Lauren had scraped the car pulling out. Normally, I'd check the estimate and cover the deductible so they wouldn't fight. Not this time. Let them deal with the insurance hassle themselves. An hour later, Ryan knocked on my door. He looked ragged hair, a mess. Mom, didn't you hear me? We can't find the paperwork. And the fridge is empty. Did you forget to shop? He said it like I was an employee who dropped the ball, not his mother. I looked at him calmly. I don't live there anymore, Ryan. I'm in my own place now. Since you and Lauren were so thrilled to be rid of me, I figured you'd want to handle your own stuff. He mumbled something about, "That's not what she meant." And Lauren was just joking. I just smiled and closed the door. It was wild how fast the independent act crumbled when the free service stopped. That evening on Facebook, Lauren posted a pizza box. Finally, no more home-cooked meals. Freedom tastes amazing. Fewer likes this time. Some friends were already asking why the yard looked so overgrown. Reality doesn't hide behind filters for long. I deleted the Facebook app from my phone. I didn't need virtual validation anymore. I made myself a nice salad and enjoyed the peace I'd earned the hard way. Day 4 brought the first real chill, and not just from the weather. With the utility transfer canceled and Ryan's account running low, the gas company started acting up. He'd ignored the past few reminders, assuming I'd handled them. Now the automatic cutoff kicked in. I heard Lauren yelling in the hallway, "Ryan, the water's ice, cold. What's wrong with the heat?" I sat cozy in my well-heated cottage, which had its own separate meter and contract. I'd insisted on splitting everything years ago, in case I ever sold. They'd called me paranoid back then. I called it smart. Ryan pounded on my door. "Mom, the heat's out. You gotta call the plumber. You have Mr. Thompson's number." I cracked the window just a bit. "Mr. Thompson's retired, Ryan. Look one up online. And remember, you pay the bill right away. Handymen don't like waiting." His eyes went wide. He hadn't saved a dime. Everything he made went to Lauren's expensive hobbies and the car lease they couldn't really afford. "Can you spot us just this once?" I shook my head. "I'm a freeloader, remember, gotta keep my money tight so I don't burden anyone." I closed the window. Later, an emergency service truck pulled up. The after-hours fee was brutal. Lauren stood there furiously tapping her phone, probably trying to spin it positive on Facebook. But you can't post your way to warmth. I went to bed early. My place was toasty, my accounts balanced, and my conscience clear. The ghosts they'd invited were starting to haunt the house. And this was just the beginning of their lesson. By day 5, the neighborhood was buzzing. Mrs. Harper from across the street called me. "Hannelore, is it true you moved out? Lauren posted some weird stuff." I gave her the short, honest version. No drama, no tears. She was quiet for a long moment, then said, "We wondered why Ryan didn't put the trash out yesterday. The cans are overflowing." It was the little things that showed now. For years, I'd sorted the recycling tracked pickup days and kept the curb looking decent. Now, garbage piled up in the front yard. Lauren tried to ignore the mess, but word spread fast in our suburban neighborhood. As a real estate agent, her whole business depended on her reputation. If she couldn't manage her own home, who would trust her with theirs? That afternoon, I watched her try to mow the lawn in fancy sneakers, posing like it was for a photo. After 10 minutes, she gave up. She didn't know how to refill the gas. She just left the mower sitting in the middle of the grass. Ryan got home late from work, and I heard them arguing through the cracked windows. Voices carried about money, undone chores, and whose fault it all was. "Your mom did this on purpose," Lauren screamed. Ryan sounded desperate in his reply. I felt no pity. I remembered that Facebook photo and the 1,000 people who'd laughed at me. They judged my worth by how useful I was and tossed me aside when they thought they didn't need me. Now they were learning usefulness has a price. I pulled out my files for a meeting with my bank advisor. One last financial tie to cut the joint savings account I'd been adding to every month for Ryan's future. It was my money, and I planned to use it for some trips. Day 6 was the turning point. At the bank, I closed the savings account. The advisor looked surprised, but I stayed firm. The money meant for Ryan's future went back into my personal account. When I got home, a delivery truck sat at the gate. They were trying to drop off the fancy new furniture Lauren had ordered. I watched Ryan argue with the driver. Payment was declined, the guy said loud enough for me to hear. Ryan looked stunned. He didn't know I'd canceled the overdraft protection I'd co-signed for that morning. Without my guarantee, his credit line had shrunk overnight. The furniture went back on the truck. Lauren came out crying. She spotted me unloading groceries from my car, but I didn't even glance her way. My fridge held fresh bread, good cheese, and a nice bottle of wine. Their house probably held nothing but blame. That evening, Ryan came to my door. He didn't knock so much as scratch at it. "Mom, please. The bank's frozen everything. We can't even buy groceries." "What did you do?" I didn't invite him in. "I didn't do anything, Ryan. I just stopped doing things for you. You're a grown man with a wife who called me a freeloader in front of the whole town. If I'm that worthless, my money shouldn't matter to you either." He hung his head. She was just trying to look cool online. She didn't know it would get this serious. I looked at him steadily. Words have consequences, Ryan. So do actions. You both laughed me out of your life. Now live it. I closed the door. It was the first time Ryan felt the full weight of reality. He'd always counted on my soft safety net. Now there was only hard ground. I felt lighter than I had in years. The burden I'd carried so long was finally his. Time for him to learn what running a house really means. Day 7 brought the public meltdown. Lauren tried to salvage things with a video where she played the victim talking about family tensions and how hard it is when older generations won't let go. But the comments had flipped. Mrs. Harper and other neighbors started posting the truth. Hannelore did everything for you. Maybe try taking out the trash instead of filming videos. The post meant to humiliate me turned into a boomerang for Lauren. Clients from her real estate office started asking questions. One big showing in the neighborhood got canceled. The sellers didn't want to work with someone who treated her mother-in-law that way. Lauren lost it. From my garden, I watched her sobbing on the patio. Ryan wasn't there. He was pulling overtime to cover late fees. It was a sad sight, but a necessary one. They had to learn respect isn't a one-way street. That evening, my sister-in-law called. "What's going on over there?" Lauren keeps calling, begging for a loan. I explained it plainly and advised her to stay out of it. If you bail them out now, they'll never learn responsibility. She agreed. The family that had laughed at Lauren's post on day 1 went suddenly quiet. No one wanted to get sucked into that mess. I sat on my balcony watching the sunset. The big house that once buzzed with life looked dark and heavy now. But my little cottage glowed. I'd planted flowers and started a new book. I wasn't a side character in their drama anymore. I was directing my own life. And day 8 would make it even clearer who really held the reins. Day 8 was pure desperation. It poured rain, and since Ryan had left the mower out, it was ruined for good, another symbol of their mess. Lauren came to me alone. She looked wrecked, no makeup, eyes swollen. Her apology sounded empty. "I'm sorry, Hannelore. I was stupid. Can you please lift the bank hold? We're about to lose everything." I didn't offer her a seat. "You called me a freeloader, Lauren, in front of the whole neighborhood. You mocked my age and my presence in my own home. Now that the heat's off and the money's gone, suddenly, I'm the good mother-in-law again." She cried harder. "I had no idea how much you handled behind the scenes. Ryan never said anything." That was half true. Ryan stayed quiet because it was convenient, and she ignored it because it suited her. "I won't lift the hold," I said calmly, "but I'll make you an offer. Tomorrow you'll sign a proper lease for the main house at fair market rate, around $2,200 a month. Utilities paid in advance. If not, I'll have the place cleared and listed for sale. I've already talked to a broker, one of your competitors." She froze. The idea that I could not only stop funding their life, but actually end it, hit hard. "You can't do that. It's Ryan's inheritance." I gave a short laugh. "It's my property, Lauren. Inheritance comes after I'm gone. And right now, I feel very much alive. She walked back to the house without another word. I knew they had no choice. No one would loan them money, and their salaries couldn't sustain the lifestyle. I'd taken control back not with yelling or complaints, but with the simple power of ownership and consequences. Day 9 would bring the decision. I was ready for whatever came. Today was day 9. Just like I'd planned, things hit a peak and then settled. That morning, Ryan and Lauren sat at my little kitchen table. They looked like kids who'd finally realized the world isn't all toys. The lease agreement my accountant had drawn up lay in front of them. No more favors. No more quiet subsidies. Sign it or start packing, I said. No more debate. Ryan signed first, then Lauren, with a shaky hand. They'd realized the old freeloader was the only one still offering them a bridge, even if it came with a real price. But that wasn't all. I required a public correction on Facebook. I want you to explain how wrong you were, I told Lauren. She started to argue, but one look at the eviction notice shut her up. An hour later, the post went up. It was long and humble. She admitted they couldn't have kept the house without my help. She apologized publicly for her arrogance. The reactions were mixed, but for me, it was enough. The power balance was clear for everyone to see now. Ryan asked quietly if I wanted to come over for dinner that night. I shook my head. No, Ryan. I have my own plans. You two need to learn how to cook for yourselves and run your lives. I'm not your housekeeper anymore. When they left, I felt no gloating, just deep relief. I'd protected my dignity and made sure my son finally had to grow up. I watched them walk slowly back to the main house. They looked small. I felt tall. It had taken 9 days to dismantle a system of taking advantage that I'd helped build over years. It was a painful lesson for all of us, but it had to happen. Now a new chapter could start, one with clear boundaries and real respect. A month has passed since Lauren made that one Facebook post. Life in the house has completely changed. Ryan works more and spends less. He's learned how to run the heat and remember trash days. Lauren's quieter now. Her reputation in town took a hit, so she's focusing more on actual work than social media. They're not freeloaders anymore because I stopped making it possible. And me, I sit on my new patio watching the birds. I've got my own life back. Last week, I drove out to the coast for a few days all by myself. Before, I'd have worried about things at home. Now I know if it doesn't run smoothly, it's not my problem. Yesterday, Ryan stopped by with a slice of cake he'd bought with his own money. We chatted about nothing important. It felt nice because there were no expectations hanging in the air. He understands now that my love for him doesn't mean I have to sacrifice myself. Lauren keeps a respectful distance. She says hello politely, but she knows the old easy familiarity is gone. That's fine with me. Respect is worth way more than fake harmony built on one person getting used. I've learned that sometimes you have to take everything away so others can finally see the value of what they had. My house is an investment now, not a place where I lose myself. I'm Hannah Laurie, 67, a widow and homeowner. I'm not a freeloader, not a burden, and not a joke. I'm the foundation of my own happiness. If tomorrow I decide to sell the house and head south, I'll do it. No guilt. I've done my part. The rest of my life belongs to me alone. And that's the most beautiful ending I could imagine for this story. Setting boundaries isn't cruelty. It's self-love. Silence isn't weakness. Sometimes you don't need to say a word, you just stop giving and let others finally see your worth.